It's been something of a dramatic first year in charge for Humza Yousaf, with the SNP leader facing a series of political challenges since he first entered Butte House last March.
What were some of the biggest events during Yousaf's fairly turbulent first 12 months in office? Joining us now to discuss this is Shadow Health Secretary for Scotland, Dr. Sandesh Gillane, alongside the author of the book, SNP Leaders, Jerry Hassan. Jerry, let's start with you. In your expertise charting the kind of rise and falls of previous leaders of the SNP, how have the last 12 months gone?
Not very well, really, for Humza Yousaf. First point is he's survived as leader. And second point is he's kept the show on the road of the SNP broadly as a coherent political party. But the achievements are small. He is, in many ways, like Rishi Sunak, a fag-end Charlie leader. The SNP have been in office 17 years. That comes with problems. There's issues of party governance as challenges, a police investigation, the project of independence is on 50% roughly support, but there's no traction towards it in progress, and there's been no serious work done on it. So it's a very, very mixed picture, mixed bag, and they're expecting bad election results coming up in the forthcoming Westminster election against Labour.
Sandesh, the Conservatives have actually published a list of 100 policy areas where Humza Yousaf has fallen short. It's also worth saying under his watch, Rutherglen and Hamilton West saw a 20% swing to Labour. So just talk us through your views of his record in office.
Well, look, it's been an unmitigated failure in the past year. And look, I'm not sure come the 1st of April whether that statement is going to become a hate crime or not. We've got 119 different instances over the failures that Humza Yousaf had as becoming leader. And essentially, he's so obsessed with independence that he's forgotten that the day job is very important, that looking after the NHS, which Scotland has completely devolved, needs to be done, looking after our teachers, looking after education standard. All of that has completely failed and fallen by the wayside as long as he talks about independence, for which he's published 9 papers at an eye-watering cost of £150,000.
I mean, it would be ridiculous, though, Jerry, wouldn't it, if the leader of the SNP wasn't pushing for independence? I mean, that's his job.
That's right. I mean, this is the defence of the SNP at the moment in government, and it's not a great defence, which is to say, look at the terrible state of Westminster. Our mess is not as bad as that. Now, that is true, but it ain't the place to start. It's a bit rich for Tories criticising the SNP. Obviously, it's what they do, and exactly true about what you make the point about independence. But independence, those papers don't address the fundamental big strategic questions independence has to, which is about the economic prospectus, which is about how we run our public services, about how we do stuff in a society that is more ageing than the UK. And Humza Yousaf doesn't have the political capital in the SNP or the country or the cut-through or the presence to make those big choices. And he, unlike Sunak, at least he was elected in an open leadership election, but he only won it narrowly, 52-48 against Kate Forbes. And she's sitting at the back benches waiting to make her move when, in the forthcoming Westminster elections, the SNP will face reverses, as you said, versus Labour. And whatever the result is in Scotland, in Westminster, it's going to feel to everyone like a Labour victory, because if the parties end up neck and neck, Labour could win 20, 25 seats in Scotland. They may not win as many as the SNP, but it'll feel like a Labour victory compared to, the SNP kind of dominance we have at the moment.
And Sandesh, let me ask you, what's the view from the electorate in Scotland? When you look at the health service, for example, as you mentioned earlier, fully devolved, when you look at that, every single A&E waiting time has been missed. A third of people are not seen within that 4-hour period that you're meant to be seen in. You've seen a rise in violent and sexual offences. You've also seen drug deaths at an all-time high. It's the drug death capital of Europe.
You're absolutely right. If you look at some of the staggering misses that we've had, 820,000 patients on a waiting list in Scotland, only 72% of cancer victims start treatment within 62 days. And we've seen a record rise in our crimes, 185,000 crimes recorded, with a rise in violent and sexual offences. Now, look, up and down the country, I'm knocking on doors and I'm speaking to people, and they're frankly fed up with the obsession of independence, which comes over doing the most basic things.
But Sandesh, they're not
looking at running.
Sandesh, they're not voting for you, though, are they?
Well, we are going to see an increase in the number of Scottish Conservatives that are elected at the next general election. Up and down the country, we are narrowly number 2 in multiple seats from East Renfrewshire all the way across our borders. And that is where we are the number 1 challenger. And we are going to be taking SNP seats across a number of places in Scotland.
But as Jerry was talking about there, the story may be of a Labour victory, not an SNP one, and potentially not a Conservative one. For now, we have to leave it there. Sandesh and Jerry, thank you both very much.